Well, joining us now is Hannah Hodson. She ran federally for the Conservatives back in the 2021 election, worked for former Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, and these days is a nursing student and trans rights activist. Hannah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I want to begin with your reaction to what was announced in Alberta last week, because you reacted quite strongly on social media. You said on social media that this was, quote, a total attack on the rights of trans people to exist. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I think it's based on, we all expected something was coming. I think that in the line of what Saskatchewan did, this is obviously significantly more. And I think that we could go through each proposal and talk about why they're bad, but I think many people have done that. My argument is that fundamentally what this shows is a rejection of the idea that being trans is as normal and legitimate as not being trans. And I think that is, to me, what speaks to an attack on the rights of trans people. The Premier using words like choice and decision and this adults can do rejects, I think, the dominant medical thinking as well as the dominant psychological thinking, and really puts the lives of trans people, especially trans youth, at risk.
Well, yeah, I did speak with Premier Smith the other day about the policies that were introduced, and she makes the argument that really what she's trying to do here is to protect young people, that they do not make a choice that they would regret down the road, pointing to one example, a trans woman who regretted having bottom surgery. Well, what do you say to that?
Well, actually, transition regret is one of the lowest instances of regret all medical science. I mean, research shows there's probably maybe less than 1% of people who regret proceeding with gender affirming care. I mean, for example, regrets of knee replacements and hip replacements are much higher. So I think using that as an example is not particularly based on the medicine and based on the reality of how it's affecting trans people, and based on how the Premier didn't consult with any LGBTQ organizations or even teachers. It does not surprise me that she'd be going with this incorrect argument.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to pick up on a point that you said earlier, too, because you essentially said that these policies frame being trans as a choice, which is something that you push back very strongly on. Many in the LGBTQ community do push back on that. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, this similar to what we saw, with being gay in the 80s and 90s and the attitudes changing over time. But the idea that it's a choice, adults want to, change their name and cut their hair and do whatever, that's fine. But, it's not is showing that the person saying it actually doesn't believe it's legitimate. I mean, they may say, I understand someone going, dealing with issues in their body or whatever, but they don't accept that it is a completely legitimate way of being that affects many people in Alberta and across the world. That it's just, this person is trans, so we should support them. It's, if you're an adult and et cetera, but it's the same argument we heard for being gay. It's the same argument we've heard for, a great many cultural war things throughout history.
So that's one level. What's your fear here? Now that these policies have gone through, what impact do you think this may have?
I think it'll have many impacts. I think the school impact is going to requiring opt-in for sexual education is going to significantly set back the education of children and students in Alberta. But I think the worst is that, saying to someone who, has known they're trans since they were, 2 and has been going through a social transition with support of their parents and doctors and for years, and has only really ever lived as their real gender, and then getting to puberty and being told, well, actually, young woman, you have to go through male puberty because you don't know what's best for you. Your doctors don't know what's best for you. The cabinet knows what's best for you, which I think is rejecting, the dominant, the Canadian pediatric science, Canadian medical science generally, and American, many different scientific organizations and medical organizations would say that is an inappropriate action that will have significantly negative medical harms to many of these young people.
So what do you then say to those? Because there are those that, were not really aware of the issue until these group of policies were introduced last week. And for many, they're siding on caution because they understand the argument being made that a parent has the right to be involved in decisions that their child is making. And as you know, a lot of those who support these kind of policies do it under the umbrella of parental rights. What do you say to those groups of Canadians?
Well, I would say to them that if you're concerned about parental rights, then why are you taking away the ability of supportive parents who are with their child on their journey to determine what is the best medical care for that child? I mean, we wouldn't say that. We wouldn't say, we don't want a different kind of necessary medical care. Parents, you don't know better. Doctors, you don't know better. We know better. And I think it's dangerous for politicians to do that because they're saying on one hand, parental rights, on the other hand, no parental rights to determine the best case of medical care for your child because they're saying absolutely not, this is not allowed. Many parents are going to leave Alberta. I've already spoken to some who have trans children are going to leave the province. And I think that's really unfortunate and something that a negative outcome we're going to see, I think, grow.
As we noted off top, you ran for the Conservatives in the last federal election. You watch politics keenly in this country. What do you see as the evolution of this debate in this country now that we've seen New Brunswick, then Saskatchewan, and now more widely in terms of how broad the stroke is, Alberta? How do you see this issue working its way through the Canadian debate?
I think it's clearly, in my opinion, it's clearly being used as a handout to the more extremist social conservative groups to say, we'll give you this in order to keep you on side. I think that's what it is. The premier didn't apparently consult with teachers or consult with anyone. She consulted with Take Back Alberta. But in terms of federally, the Pierre Poilievre talking about parental rights, I mean that's what this is about. It's a way to say, yeah, we know, we're not going to talk about specific policy. We know you're concerned about this. Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, support us over here. There's a long history of this. I mean, I think that the Conservatives realized that the issues like abortion and gay marriage were settled. People weren't going to accept those anymore. And so this is, coming up from the States, this is the next battlefield. And it's unfortunate that more young people, more vulnerable people among the most vulnerable people in society are going to be under threat.
Hannah Hodson, thank you for the time. Really appreciate you speaking with us.
Thank you.